Hello, everyone. Today I'm speaking to Ammie, who has very recently received her undergraduate degree from the Faculty of Divinity, University of Cambridge. So, Ammie, when you joined the Faculty of Divinity all those years ago, 4 years ago, what is it that you were looking for? Have you indeed found it?
Thank you, Anka. I don't think I was looking for a very specific thing. I was looking for the answers to the main question being which religion is correct, which I now realize is probably not a very productive question to ask because it entirely depends on which perspective you're asking from and what your definition of correct is and what tendencies you have to trust when you use different sources. So I think coming here and studying for 4 years, more than my questions being answered, they've been redirected to be more accurate and to be more productive, I would say. So I have definitely learned how to approach texts more, which texts I should be focusing on, how to even find the materials to answer those questions. So whilst I probably can't give an objective, 3-minute answer to what is the right religion now, I can probably talk to you a lot more about my thoughts on it. And that's essentially what I sought out to do 4 years ago when I joined.
Thank you. So, what I hear you saying is that sometimes trying to ask a better question is even more important than answering a particular question.
100%. I think that's the main takeaway I've taken away from the main takeaway I've gotten from this degree because a lot of my supervisors, I'll ask a question that's quite I'd say blunt or like quite out there and they can respond with like, okay, this is a better question to ask. Why do you think that is? And I think that's happened across multiple modules and not just one religion.
Wonderful. Now comes the second question. When people hear the name Faculty of Divinity, they tend to think, I'm told, of a place where they can only study Christian theology. What do you have to say about this image of the faculty?
I think I can understand where people are coming from, and I can understand why someone, even in the faculty, may feel like they have more Christian options than others, especially, one of the compulsory papers being you have to choose between New Testament and Old Testament papers. I can see why that image exists. That being said, I definitely didn't specialize in Christian theology. There are still other options. So I did Arabic and Sanskrit when I was here. And I ended up going much more into the Hinduism track towards the end of my degree, even though I didn't think that would be the case when I first came in. Um, the faculty, I would say, well, the theology undergraduate degree offers the most flexibility, I'd say, out of any other degree I've seen. You essentially don't do the same degree as anybody else. There's not many compulsory modules that you have to do apart from those two, and even within those two, you have so many options. So I think if you want to come in and do theology and not do Christian theology, the option is entirely there. I mean, you can even make it not really theology and do philosophy and literature and anthropology if you want to. So the option is always there to personalize it as much as you want. Um, so whilst I can see why someone would come in thinking that it's very Christian theology focused, I think you have the tools to make it more personalized to something else if you want.
Wonderful. So the faculty is a tree with multiple branches, let's say.
Yeah. And there are multiple branches in one side. There's branches everywhere, so.
Now comes a very big question, which is this. There seems to be a worry that if you study at the Faculty of Divinity for your undergraduate degree, you will become unemployable in the real world. What do you have to say about this worry?
I think to get a job is quite difficult for everybody after graduation, but what you do at university matters the most to be able to make that an easier process. And the specific degree that you do doesn't disadvantage you inherently. I will say that the culture in the faculty is definitely different to others. So, for example, faculties like where people study economics or law, they're very, or medicine or engineering, they're very vocational. It's quite, there's usually a clear path of what you're studying and what you're going to do afterwards. And that's not necessarily the case for theology because so many people do so many different things. Honestly, I couldn't tell you one answer as to what a theologian does after they graduate, right? So I think when there are conversations being had in the environment. So are you out of what internship are you doing, or which job are you doing, or which company is best for this role? It's easier to get into that track of I'm going to apply for these things and I'm going to do these opportunities to enhance my career. And I think there's less of that at the faculty, which I will say personally I found really refreshing because whilst I was studying with my friends, it was entirely about studying and, asking questions about these things. And the second I left the faculty, I can talk about other things outside. But I do think that made it a little bit harder when I was there. And for example, me coming from a state school and not having many connections in the corporate world, I was completely thrown into the ocean when it came to internships. I didn't actually know what one was until very, very late. So I think if you have the skills, if you have someone who can guide you, and if you take time outside of your degree to talk to the right people and put effort into figuring out what you want to do, you're not disadvantaged in any manner. You can get into law, banking, teaching, charity, whatever you want to do. But I will say that doing it in the Faculty of Divinity, you might have to take a little bit more initiative than other people.
And that brings me to the final question. People often claim that students at the University of Cambridge in general, and not just the faculty, live inside a bubble. Do you feel that studying religion at the faculty has taken you away from the quote unquote real world?
I think two things can be true at once. I think there can be a bubble, but it also, well, okay, not two, not two things true at once. I think the bubble does exist, but it doesn't necessarily take away from the real world. It definitely is a bubble in terms of you're very much in a very small environment. You have the same people, the same lecturers. You probably build a very structured and regular routine. And the bubble extends past divinity as well. It's, even the way the accommodation works and the way that college can take care of you if something happens. Right? All of those things contribute to there being a feeling of you in a bubble, and you're kind of babied in a way. But that being said, it's 8 weeks at a time. And it's those 3 years. You go home for the rest of the time when you're in the holidays. You go home for a very, very extended summer holidays. So there is loads of opportunities to break free from the bubble. And I think the biggest time that I felt that is working part-time jobs outside, or, even my friends when they go home and they work summer jobs or internships, you're very much immersed right back into the real world. So I think you can study at Cambridge, experience the bubble, but very periodically also get out of the bubble. Um, Also, it's very connected to so many cities around. You can take a £2 train to Ely for 15 minutes, or like an hour train to London. So if you ever feel like you're in the bubble, it is easy to leave, see the real world. Talk to your friends from other universities, and do essentially whatever you want to do in your free time. So it's easy to leave the bubble as well.
Thank you, Ammie, for speaking to me.